I am a psychic medium. That's what I do for work. Welcome to the Messages from Heaven television show. My name is Anne LoCicero, and I have been working in Connecticut as a psychic medium since 1994. My job, I often think about like what exactly is it with the mediumship? That's my job, and all I know is that there is an afterlife. I don't care what you call it. I call it heaven. There's no other better word for me. I can't think of a better word. I mean,
the funniest, I can't even, I'm sorry, it's just so funny that Tim, he would be like, he didn't believe in this kind of stuff at all. Like, he was just like,
really?
Adamant, yeah.
Oh no, he's flying through with flying.
He's got this great.
My goal is to present raw, uncut, and unedited live readings on camera for you. I'll be doing this by presenting and sharing with you messages from heaven. Let me inspire you with the reality of mediumship. Hello, and welcome to Messages from Heaven. I am your host, psychic medium Anne LoCicero. This is episode number 9. We are filming in June of 2023, and I'm so excited for this show today because having a show called Messages from Heaven and having myself as a medium here, usually presenting readings to you, definitely sharing information with you about your signs and other ways to get messages from heaven for yourself, from your own loved ones on a day-to-day basis. And I do really love using this outlet to also share with you and teach you and guide you along the way to understanding a little bit more of how some of this works, how the afterlife works, how somebody with these abilities are able to bring that through. You know, making different lessons come through so it can enhance your world and enhance your life. Hence, messages from heaven on all levels. And today, I get to bring, as my guest, somebody I know very well. She is a child psychic. She is a natural intuitive. She is an empathic human being. She is 28 years old, but she has been seeing spirit and receiving intuitive information, being called an indigo and a star child, being called extremely gifted. All her life, this astral child, and this is my child. So I'm very excited to interview today and ask from her perspective what it was like for her growing up as a child of a medium and answer some of those cliche questions for you guys, like, does it run in the family? But before I do that, I want to share with you something very special that my daughter Julia does. She has a very unique way to express herself through poetry and through spoken word. And she has written an incredible poem for you called Grief Through a Medium. And I'm going to have her present that to you, and then I'm going to interview her. So enjoy that. Grief Through a Medium with Julia Jette Smith. Thank you.
This is my poem, Grief Through a Medium. A soft breeze, a familiar scent, the feeling of a touch so real yet no longer there. The emptiness and missing space there now more than ever. Songs that trigger memories, pulling them up to their extremities. Please know that this is okay. And try to remember me in a different way. Picture my smile as I look down upon you and know that I'm there through rain and sunshine too, to take care of you with my wings, either old or new. Know that I'm lifting you up and holding you close through good days and bad times the most. Smile back at me when a feather crosses your path. Laugh at our memories that will always last. And when the bird of my soul flies by you, just know that I am visiting you. I warm you with my spirit through the flame of the candle that you light for me. And as you do, please try to set some of your grief free. Play our song and dance with me and release some of that energy. For even though I am no longer on your plane, my love for you will always remain the same. So try to recall me in a positive light. Accept your grief. There's no need to fight. I'll give you my hand whenever I can until I meet you again in another land. So know that the hole in your soul and in your heart can still never keep us apart. And every day since I have left you, for you is a beautiful new start.
I think that hearing those words are amazing. The way that we can associate to all the different signs that are out there. And it is my honor and privilege to introduce to you my daughter, Julia. Hey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello. I'm excited to be on tonight. I'm excited to be part of this awesome project that you have and that you're doing and sharing everything with everybody out there. So I think that it's absolutely incredible.
Well, thank you for being on. I know that for me, as it's one thing to go out and to be in the public eye and to talk about mediumship and just to put everything that I do psychic out on the line all the time. And then to have you, my daughter, come on and just kind of, not that it's outing you, because you're out there doing your mediumship and your work too, but it is a lot. It is, we joke, like, we shouldn't fly somewhere together and work because there might be an earthquake, and we walk in and lights start blinking places.
Like earlier when we came in. Yes, absolutely.
But you've grown up this way. So one of the very first questions that I get when I'm talking about you, me having, or you, when somebody says, oh, your mom does that too, it's like, oh, so does it run in the family, Julia?
So my answer is always no. So for me, there's always that debate between a gift and an ability. And for me, as much as I am gifted, I do believe that it's an ability. I do believe that almost anyone could do it. Now, that being said.
Almost anyone?
Anyone.
Okay.
Probably anyone who would be willing to do it would be able to do what we do. I think that the difference is I grew up in a household where it was just known that spirit was there. It was just known that spirit was able to communicate with us, that spirit was able to send us signs. Losses were explained to me in such a way that I knew what mom did for a living, and I knew what you did. I was able to say that makes sense to me. And so I think that the kind of same rule applies for almost musical instruments.
Yeah.
If you get raised in a household where there's lots of musical instruments, where you're picking that up at a very young age, you're going to be better at playing them than most kids who start.
Or at least you'll know what's in key and what's not in key.
Right, exactly. And so growing up in that environment, I feel like it absolutely helped my ability to be able to read later on.
Well, there were many, many, many years where you knew what I did, and I wouldn't tell anybody. I would keep it as quiet and under the rug as I could because you didn't necessarily want it. It's like a stigma in a sense.
And kids are cruel. Kids can be cruel.
Okay, yes.
And so I think that had a little bit about it, and which is so awesome that society has changed so much that it's no longer something that's so taboo. That, my siblings can go through life and be proud, and it was something that unfortunately I felt had to be a secret, which is ironic because now I'm doing it myself. So
I know. Well, you used to do all kinds of things that were, all right, so when I was pregnant with you, I knew I was having a girl. And back then, or where I was, because you're 28 now and I'm 50 now, there wasn't exactly all that equipment to know what you were having. So, unless you had to, right? But I knew you were a girl. I knew it instinctively. I made all kinds of girl things. I got ready for a girl. So if you had come out a boy, I would have been shocked.
I still have your door sign that says my name on it that you painted
Julia.
While you were pregnant.
Absolutely. But it was one of those things where as you grew up, you still did that. You still did a lot of things that I couldn't explain. You would say things like, oh, don't leave the chicken on the counter. And then, we left and then we come home and the dog's into the chicken. Or we'll be driving around the corner and you'll say, why aren't American flags supposed to be on the ground? And I pull into the driveway and our American flag had fallen on the ground. And it's, after a while, it just one thing leads into another. And you were what I call natural. You were a natural psychic. You were a natural medium. You knew when loved ones were around. You knew what was going on. And it made it comfortable for me in the house as well. So we kind of bounced off each other at times too, I think. What was the first time you remember? Because, when you're a psychic kid, people think that's, oh, you're so, what? Oh, that's so cool, like you can maybe touch them and be like, you're cured of everything and your people are there. And,
when we were young, kids would run up to me who knew what you did and weren't exactly nice. They would say, what am I going to do in 5 minutes? And I would be like, you're going to breathe.
Well, at least you had a comeback.
100%. The first thing I really remember being impacted by, as far as, everything was so normal and this one experience really impacted me. I think we were throwing some kind of party and I was in the backyard. I was swinging on the swing and I was waiting for my cousins to show up or something. And our dog Susie ran across the yard. And directly behind her, I saw a golden retriever run. And so immediately I was like, oh my gosh, there's another dog in my yard. And then I realized the golden retriever was gone. And it felt to me, and I don't remember how old I was. I was young.
You were young.
Like 8, 9 maybe. And it felt to me as though it was a real dog. And so I had run into the house and you were sitting at the table and I hadn't known that she had arrived. But our family friend Mary Ann had showed up. And I was like, Mom, I saw a dead dog.
And what was awesome for me as a mom and way probably profound for Marianne was as you were seeing the dog and you ran in saying that you saw the golden retriever, Marianne was sitting there telling me how her sister was spreading their golden retriever's ashes on the beach that day, and that's why she wasn't at our house.
So the dog came to me as a thank you and telling Marianne it was okay that she wasn't spreading the ashes, that she was at the party. So it was a hello for her and a I'm okay and I'm happy.
From an animal.
Which was really cool.
That is kind of cool.
Weird, but cool.
You can't really, So I find it interesting. I'm going to share also your sisters. When Susie passed, your sister and I were standing in New Hampshire at a mountainside, and we weren't with Susie. And she said, oh, look, there goes Susie flying across and she kind of stopped because she realized what she had just said. And it was when our dog had passed. So now that I think about it, both my daughter's first experiences that I experienced with them were both with animals.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is kind
Too
of
bad
cool.
we can't do that now.
Well, you never know. Well, you wrote this poem, and every time I hear it, it brings back all of these. I'm going to be really specific, and it's a word that you used in here too, but I'm not exactly sure where. The triggers. It's triggers. A lot of people, when I say, what is your sign for your loved one? They're like, oh, I don't have one. Well, don't you want to know they're around you? Well, maybe. I mean, of course, And it dawns on me, not everybody necessarily has a sign or wants a sign because it's a trigger for grief. Have you learned that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured that one out not so long ago. However, I'm an avid believer that it's the signs that they can get through to us.
Correct.
Okay, so when I have a list, so we can go through them. So I thought we'd bounce back and forth, and we could even kind of do it as a game. So I'm gonna quiz my kid. Name for me at least 5 bird signs, because we love our birds. And because when I'm outside and I'm thinking about my loved one and a bird comes by, I know that bird can see, hear, and feel my loved one in spirit. So I know that they're there because heaven's in the room and okay, what's going on, right? And probably the same thing with all animals. I know it's the same with us. We're like, oh, there's spirit in the room, It feels good. But name 5 birds.
So hawks and eagles are 2 big ones for me personally.
Okay.
As far as signs for loved ones, and then you have your
eagles.
cardinals, your blue jays, and then I need one more apparently. I do have to say that flamingos is one.
I don't even have that on the list.
You don't have that on the list, and that is one that has come through a few times in some readings as both the animal and then like figurines or just flamingos as in general.
As a sign. So when somebody sees a flamingo, they think of their loved one. All right, that's pretty cool. I also had a crane, like the blue, like the herrings, a crow.
Okay.
And how about the doves or the pigeons, however you want to call them?
They're two totally separate things. But
Well, there's also seagulls.
yep.
Or there's other birds that people, like water birds. I say the water birds.
I always say as a rule of thumb when it comes to signs that it's both seeing the sign and getting the feeling, or seeing the sign and thinking of them. And so I've heard you say, and I say in my readings as well, there's two different types of people. There's type A that sees the cardinal and says, oh, that makes me think of my grandma. And type B sees the cardinal and goes, hi, grandma. And so it's kind of a combination of those. And so even if it's an off season, like cardinals aren't around, and you go into the dollar store and there's this whole figurine of beautiful cardinals, and you get that feeling, you get that moment, it's still a huge, huge hello, which I think is really cool when it comes to
As long
the
as you're getting the
birds.
feeling.
Correct.
As long as you get that.
And it's just a tinge, and sometimes you could even call it a trigger, because it might give you that pain of grief, but it also gives you that
Comfort of hello
moment.
In order to acknowledge a sign, you have to acknowledge that the person is no longer with us, and that's why they're giving us the sign. That's a hard step to get through sometimes.
It's a layered
So
experience.
I'm going to say, okay, so those are the birds. I love the movies. I'm going to pick movies and music. But I do also want to know why you have the eagle and the hawk. But I'm going to fast forward to the movies. Wizard of Oz, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Dorothy with all of her friends. You've got the Tin Man in the Heart. You've got Outdoor in the Woods. You've got the apple trees. You've got so much that has to do with that. Sometimes just Dorothy or the name Dottie even, or even Toto or the dog or something. Wizard of Oz, for me, seems to be the hugest sign for all of my loved ones, in addition to the song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, whether it's, whatever version it is, because there's 5 or 6 different versions, that seems to come through top almost all the time. But I'm a music lover. Do you find that people will get certain songs for music? I will literally put Pandora on and go take a shower or go do something, and I'll hear Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and then I'll hear it again, and then I'll fast forward it, and then I'll hear it again, and I'm like, hello,
So
I heard you.
For myself, I had an experience where I was driving, and a friend of mine had passed away, and Highway to Hell came on when I was playing my playlist, and I was like, Highway to Hell's not on my playlist, and I pulled over and I checked, it wasn't on my playlist.
Oh, that's cool.
So I listened to it all the way through, put my playlist back on, let it play, a song played, and then Highway to Hell played again. And I was like, whoa. A lot of clients that I've had have also had music that are songs that are connected to them, specifically to their loved ones, that they'll hear in the grocery store, that'll play more than once on shuffle, that will pop up on the radio, that'll be in the background of a TV show that they're watching.
Even in the person's car next to you at a light, something like that.
Absolutely. And so those songs and even, just playing those songs for yourself as a connection to your loved one, that vibration, that sound, that connection, it really does create a feeling of connection between you and your loved one who's crossed.
It's really hard to tell a client who says, I don't listen to that music anymore. I don't play their playlist. I don't put that radio on. Because I always think, well, that means that your loved one is sitting with you and not listening to music also.
I would hope, I would hope that they could find new music that would connect. So I guess that would be my suggestion, is to find new music.
And still let it connect.
And still
not
let it
to
connect.
avoid it.
Correct.
Well, All right. What other ones, signs, do you think? What else should we go to?
So a big one is electricity. We could talk about that one.
Oh, I love electricity.
Spirit, it can often be electric.
I'm sorry. Boogie,
Boogie,
woogie,
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 woogie.
woogie.
I knew I wanted to.
Okay, go on. That's for all of those out there who can't hear the word electric without hearing that in
Boogie,
the
boogie,
background.
boogie.
It just happens.
So, they say in the paranormal shows and other things like that, and all over, they've always experienced, lights going out, candles going out, electricity, things like that, with the lights connected to spirit. And so I've heard you say in the past, what always cracked me up was tighten your light bulbs before you replace them if they were a jokester. Which has always made me laugh.
True.
And it is true. The lights flickering, car lights, street lights as you drive, lights and electricity is very, powerful, as well as the radio. It doesn't necessarily have to be music, but
Do you
it can be
remember
messing
when
with the
Grandma
radio.
died? Oh,
We
tried
try.
to get out of the car. Spirit in the Sky was playing. We turn off the car. It's still playing. We turn the car back on.
And not only was it playing, but it was playing, but it wasn't showing that it was playing.
No,
it was
and we couldn't
stuck on
talk about
the number.
electricity, lights blinking. I say that we're made up of three things: water, bacteria, and electricity. I know that takes a lot of the spiritual aspect out of it, but the electricity itself is an amount of energy in motion that can absorb and release and move and is fluid. And I think that electricity is super powerful. I've had the garage door open. I've had fans go on. We've had all kinds of lights and things, flicker around when we're working. That's spirit. That's letting you know they're around. People don't always want to.
I mean, haven't you had experiences where a dead person has called your client while you were reading them?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I mean,
your phone will come up and people look at it and they're like,
Yeah.
Totally. And you have to expect it too. If you don't believe it'll happen, it's kind of hard to even pick it up.
You have to be open to it, absolutely.
How about smells? Do you smell when you're reading?
Yes.
Okay.
One big one, a new one, because, as I read, everything's always shifting and changing for me as far as the way that I'm reading. But a new one is I'll smell wood shavings. If somebody was a woodworker, like the smell of of like floors being done, or wood shavings, or like a saw, and so that's a smell that I've been getting a lot. I can smell if they smoke.
You'll smell the
I can
wood if
smell
they're
the really rosy perfume or the baby powdery perfume. I can smell those things distinctively, but I don't. Other than that, not really. I'm not a big five sensor.
But I think. Do you see things? Do you smell things? Do you hear things?
No.
Correct. Okay. But I think that signs for somebody that have to do with those senses are very important. And I did write a couple of things down. Smoke is huge. If somebody doesn't smoke and they're in their car and they're driving somewhere and a song comes on the radio that makes you think of your loved one, and all of a sudden you smell like the menthol cigarette that they used to smoke, they need to be saying hello to their loved one. And here's the other thing that I think people think too. When they get signs, sometimes they start to think, what does my loved one need to tell me? They need to talk to me. I need to get to a medium. I need to know what they want to say.
It's not always the case.
It's not.
A lot of it is just a hello. For hawks, I said hawks are important to me. The other day I was on my way to a reading and I was very anxious just in general. And a hawk flew down and I saw it and I slammed on my brakes. And if I had been going any faster, I would have hit the hawk on my windshield. And I slammed on my brakes, and in front of me, I watched somebody blow the stop sign right where I would have been, right in that moment. And so that's all my loved one had to say to me. That was it. Just, you're good now. Just, hold on a second, and then you're good now. So, and then it's just hello. It's not always a message. Sometimes it's just, I'm
that
here.
Sounded like an important message because you're still here.
I guess so, yeah.
Do and I can see things like that. So, but at the same time, they have to recognize that it's there. How about dreams? Talk to me about dreams. Because, loved ones, sometimes they come into your dreams. It's not always the prettiest dreams. They're not always talking. They're not always letting you know what's going on. But I think dreams are always visits.
I find that in a lot of my readings, when people do dream of their loved ones who have passed on, they do not speak. I find that to be a very common theme. And for me, it's just, I'm here, is kind of what it is. It's just, I'm here. I find that children often will dream and tell their parents about the dreams of their loved ones being in it. So if an aunt or an uncle, they'll talk about
the things you used to dream about.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
And I think that dreams are a message. And sometimes it comes through and your grief can be tangled up in that dream. And sometimes those dreams are not always the most positive. That does not mean that your loved one is not okay.
Let me repeat what you just said. The grief you feel can get entangled in the dream, which could make the dream not feel as positive as you want it to be.
Correct.
That's because we're human.
It's still them trying to give us comfort, trying to just be there through that grief.
True. I have so many questions for you. So let me skip through some of this really quick and add in when you think of some. I have wildlife like deer, turtles, bats. I was doing a reading once.
Dragonflies, butterflies.
Now we're to bugs.
Oh.
That's the bugs, right? We got butterflies, dragonflies, spiders, ladybugs, houseflies. I had a reading once. This lady was sitting there and she's like, well, I don't know, should we do this? And, and sometimes it's the concept of whether it's religiously good or spiritually good. And up on the window comes a praying mantis. Just poop, pops up right on the screen. And she looks over it and she's like, oh, okay, I'm good now. And I was like, okay, but I'm not. And I need to go take pictures of this because a praying mantis just showed up during your reading. This is cool. Like,
that's great.
I'm like, stand next to it because I'm like, that's what you asked for, and that's what you got, and not everybody gets things like that. Flowers. Somebody could be sitting here going, oh my gosh, pink flowers, that's my mom's sign. Pink flowers, I'm watching this, that's my sign, that's my loved one's sign. So right now, you could be a sign. Can you imagine? Items. Coins. Hearts.
Hidden hearts. That's a big one that a lot of people have. Hidden hearts could be, if you're looking for signs from a loved one, you could find that the stain that your coffee stain is a heart, or a crack in a sidewalk, or a leaf that falls, or a scribble that happened, or just hidden hearts in different places.
A hidden heart. Like a search and find.
Almost.
Okay.
And they'll pop up to you, that stain just happens to look like a heart, and it's just hearts hidden that your loved ones are just sending you and making sure that are vivid enough to you that you can see them.
That's a cool one. I like that. Feathers.
Big time.
Huge. Shooting stars, of course. Physical things. What about people feeling things like somebody sitting on their bed? That's happened with animals. I'll be the first to admit, I thought that it was a living animal on the end of the bed, and it wasn't. I was like, oh my gosh, when I sat up and looked, I got a little nervous.
You'll hear that sometimes in older couples who had been together for a very, very long time. They'll be laying in bed and they'll feel their partner come to, bless you.
Excuse me. Sorry, live TV.
They'll be laying in bed and they'll feel their partner come up and sit down on the bed to get into the bed. Sometimes just their existence of being there as well, as far as physical stuff. And then you go so far as to have, open cabinets.
Yeah, cabinet doors can open and things can creak. That's like physical stuff. Sounds or being touched, like having somebody pull your hair.
Yep.
I've had that. And then I'll circle right back to you. How about the way children seem to know? What is this about this knowing that you had as a kid? Because I may have had a knowing because I've always thought and felt and spoke the way I did. I don't really think that changed as much. But you had a knowing when you were younger that was like, you had a good sense of people. You had this, people would call you an old soul. They would call you, I had people pull me on the street and be like, your kid is an indigo. Look at her blonde hair and her blue eyes. She knows where she came from. And like, just throw all this, and I'm going to be kind to a lot of these people, but some of them were crazy. Some of them were like, she's a star child and she needs to be from the mermaid world. And I'm like, okay, everybody relax. This is my kid we're talking about. But you did have that.
So as a kid, there's a lot of experiences that I had. Astral projecting being one of them. There are millions of children, even now in the upcoming generations, the young children we have now, that dream of going away to school. Millions of them. And so some of these parents are like, where's my kid? Why does the whole neighborhood talking about this? And so the way that I remember is I would go to school to become a warrior, to be able to protect and heal the people who were here, to be able to defend the goodness
and these were your midnight dreams,
the good energy, and these were my midnight dreams. And so then when I was here during the day as a child, it felt as though, and it still does, that as though there was a purpose to know people, to create that connection. To be aware of what was going on a heightened level. And I do remember
it is beyond words how thankful I am. I'm so thankful,
of course,
to have you on. Will you come back on again?
I would love to.
Because I think we could really tear it up and bring some new information out and take the afterlife, and we could share all kinds of information. I mean, you could talk about how your readings don't necessarily have anything to do with God or religion, and they all have to do with some quantum physics and energy. And I can talk about how angels give messages. And
I would love,
we could just
love
jump into
that.
animal guides and maybe even get some people on and read them together. Oh, now I'm pushing it?
No,
Well,
I would love
figure it
to.
out.
I would love to.
We'll figure it out.
The dynamic duo.
Messages from heaven. All right.
Thank you for having me on.
You got it. There's nothing better having the ability to bring you more information about messages from heaven in a way that directly connects with a family member of mine. We're local. We're here. Watch the episodes, the past episodes with readings, and all the future episodes we're going to have, sharing with you as much information as we can. You look for your signs today. You make sure you pay attention to every bird, bug, smell, sound, or electrical buzz. And if you know it's from your loved ones, you make sure you say hi back and get that next sign again. And until we meet again, Wednesday nights, Messages from Heaven. I'm Rebecca Anne LoCicero, and thank you.